Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. If you would, as you join, put your name in the chat and tell us where you're calling in from, what part of the world you're calling in from. We'd appreciate it. We've got people still joining, so we will get started in just a minute. Let's see here who we have. We've got folks from, oh my goodness, the chat's going so fast. Oakland, California, New York City, Washington, D.C., Camp Verde, Arizona. Wow. Suburban Chicago, Arlington, Washington, Durham, North Carolina. Welcome, y'all. We've got Tampa, Florida, and Oak Park, Illinois. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Give people just another moment. We see people are still joining us, and we'll get started in about 10 seconds. All right, we are so glad you're here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join in the crucial fight to reduce the spread and impact of disinformation. If you haven't had a chance to do that yet, please make sure you say hi in the chat and let us know where you're coming from. It's always tremendously encouraging for everyone who has joined us to see just how widespread our community is and realize that people power is on the right side of decency and truth. My name is Kimberly, and you are on the Indivisible Truth Brigade new member orientation and campaign launch call. The Truth Brigade is all about using our grassroots power, along with tons of research and evidence-based best practices to disrupt the flow of disinformation. So let's get started. I can change my slide, we'll get started. Okay. Did you know that historically, if as little as 3.5% of the population resists nonviolently, they have never failed to bring about change? I'm going to repeat that. If as little as 3.5% of the population resists nonviolently, they have never, ever failed to bring about change. That makes me feel pretty popular to be here with you all today. And here is some of what the Truth Brigade has accomplished. You take a look at the slide. Over 9,000 members, over 600 million online impressions, and over 2,000 offline conversations. And that's in 2024 alone. How about you show some love for you Truth Brigaders, some hearts and thumbs up in the chat. Way to go. I'm proud to be part of that 3.5. Now, we love this quote from Robert Draper. The truth is often inconvenient, but it is the pursuit of truth but the pursuit of truth is the most important thing we can do in a democracy. As you'll learn today, the Truth Brigade does not focus on arguing or pushing studies or data at people. Instead, our goal is to persuade others to pursue the truth. While facts and research are important, when people value critical thinking, disinformation simply cannot flow. So tonight, a quick run through of our agenda for tonight. We've got welcome and housekeeping and a quick check-in poll for you. And then we're going to talk about the campaign launch, which is The Math Ain't Mathin'. And we'll have an orientation for those of you who are new and co-working for those veteran brigaders. We'll have opportunities and AMP teams, ways that you can get involved in the Truth Brigade. We'll have an action recap, poll, and closing. And then we know that you'll have lots of questions. So Jody's going to stick around after the call to answer questions during a brief Q&A session. Next slide. All right, so quick housekeeping. We're recording this call, and we will, of course, email the materials and all of the links. We want to welcome longtime brigaders and new friends. Captions are available. All you have to do is click on the CC in the menu bar. This is a working call for volunteers, not journalists. So if you are a journalist and you're here, everything that you hear tonight, is off the record. If you have a question, you'll see that the chat is going to be moving pretty quickly. So to differentiate the chat from questions that you would like us to potentially be able to answer, just use the word ask to flag your question. With the number of people here, we probably won't get to them all, but as I mentioned, Jody will be sticking around after the call to catch a few of those questions. Of course, the golden rule in the chat, be kind and open. That's why we're here. And expect the technological unexpected. You might see a straying cat or a wandering kid walk in. We will just be patient with each other. And one last thing that I wanted to mention, they just told me to mention and then I forgot it. Oh, if you have a question, please make sure that you click on for everyone. Do not just message the panelists or the host because we probably won't see it. Make sure that you are sending your message to everyone. And then let's meet the team. I'm Kimberly, as I said. I am from Southeastern Virginia. I am on the training team here at Indivisible, and I'm going to pass it to Cynthia D, who will then pass it to somebody else so you can meet the team who's working feverishly to put this call together for you. Cynthia.
Hi, thank you, Kimberly. I'm a volunteer. I work primarily in Slack, actually, in the workshopping channel. If you're putting together a truth sandwich and want some help, I'm there to help with that. And I'm going to pass it to my mentor, Cameron.
Please, I'm not your mentor, I'm your friend now. Hello, everybody. My name is Cameron McCaw-Hennick, and I am an organizing manager here with the Indivisible Project, and I'm part of the Truth Brigade team, as well as our Red and Rural Caucus. And I will pass it over to Adrian.
Thank you, Cameron. Hi, everyone. I am Adrian. I am in Pacifica, California, just down the coast from San Francisco, and I'm a Truth Brigade associate here, working to help get the volunteers engaged and on board. So I will pass it on to
Jules.
how about Jules? I can't see everybody on the screen. Jules, are you there?
Hello, I'm Jules. I am a Senior Network Programs Associate here at Indivisible. I'm so happy to be here with you all, and I'm gonna pass it to Jody.
Thanks, Jules. Hey, everybody. My name is Jody Ryan. I live in Colorado. I'm a founder of the Truth Brigade and so delighted to see so many people here with us. And I'm a senior manager in our network support department. Back to you, Kimberly, and back to the slides.
Thank you so much. And you've got a hard team working here behind the scenes to make this work. And so we have a poll question for you. It is going to pop up. We have about 3 quick poll questions to check in. It is going to appear magically on your screen in un momento. You should see it now. We're going to give it about 30 seconds to a minute, less than a minute for you to respond. So please respond to the poll. If you do not see the poll, we will make sure that we let you know what people are saying. We are at about 73% on question 1. Okay. Gonna give it about 10 more seconds.
Just a heads up for the folks who are new here, don't worry about the last 2 questions. Those are primarily for people who have been with us for a while. Sorry, it just went to the wrong place.
All right, we're going to give it 5 seconds. You guys are still answering feverishly. Oh my God, the numbers are going so fast.
Yeah, Kimberly, maybe a little bit longer.
I
since we're-
will. I
Yeah.
will.
So great to hear from all of you.
Yes. While you're answering, we have almost 1,500 people on the call tonight. So it's taken a little bit longer for the responses to come in, but we want to hear your voices and we want to hear what you have to say. So we're just going to give it a little bit more time. Jody, you tell me.
Oh, we're good. We're almost at 1,000 people. So I think we can give a 10-second warning.
Sounds good to me. And closing the poll now. Okay, we're going to end the poll. And question number 1, your neighbor tells you she won't vaccinate her kids because it's dangerous. This is an example of misinformation, disinformation.
Wait a minute. I'm so sorry, guys. It looks like we launched the wrong thing. We launched a quiz instead of a poll. So sorry if everybody was confused here. But it's great that you all answered. So I think what we'll have to do is we'll move on if that's okay. And then let's see if any of what we have to say changes your answers.
To me.
Probably if people are curious, I think we should probably let you know what the right answer is. You think so, Kimberly?
Yes, I clicked out of the
So
poll.
I'll talk folks through. So if your neighbor tells you she won't vaccinate her kids because it's dangerous, yes, that's misinformation, and you'll learn why very soon. And then absolutely, we do not argue with people. The second question is it the best way to persuade your neighbor by arguing? No, you find out what you have in common because you're building relationships. And then the distinction between disinfo and misinfo is important because we can't stop bad actors from creating, but we can disrupt the flow of misinformation. And the fourth one is people who care about the truth are not vulnerable to disinformation and misinformation. That's not true. We're all vulnerable. And then can people and groups reduce the spread of disinformation? Absolutely. And one counter message can reduce disinfo by 15%. Empathy does open minds closed by fear. So thank you all for participating. Sorry about that little glitch. So I'll turn it back to, I think, Kimberly, are we back with you? Or
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for participating in that call. And we told you to expect technological glitches, and we'd like to deliver on our promises. One note, the bit about arguing doesn't work with your neighbors. It does work with spouses, husbands, and partners. So I'll just throw that little tidbit of wisdom out there for you. And with that, we will turn it over to Kelsey.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kelsey Suter. I am an outside advisor to the Truth Brigade, and I am here to talk about the campaign that we are launching this week. And just so you know, we're talking about this pretty early in the call so that you all understand sort of what the strategy is, what we're going to try to do coming out of this call. But just know there's going to be more detailed training later on. You're going to learn more after I am done about what to actually do with this information I'm presenting. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we can talk about what's happening. Okay, so it's not news to anybody on this call that the administration has been claiming for a few weeks now that it is eliminating all kinds of wasteful spending. We're now in this federal budget conversation to avert a shutdown, where we're seeing all kinds of lies around these proposed cuts to government that we are seeing. We're being told that the administration is working toward a balanced budget, with this idea that we're going to balance the budget, put more money in people's pockets, and leave these essential programs like Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid untouched. It all sounds very good, but it is essentially misleading This is not how budgets work, and it is not what's happening. So what we are working on this week is a campaign to call attention to the fact that the math ain't mathing, right? Like, these numbers don't add up. The administration is increasing its spending through a lot of these cuts, both from DOGE and the federal budget. It's on track to add trillions of dollars to the debt. You know, they're going to use trillions in taxpayer money to fund tax breaks for the wealthy and corporations. That is money that we have to spend to give to the wealthy. And they're going to offset it with, you know, another several trillion in cuts to programs that help millions of families afford basic needs. So all of these cuts, these you know, cuts to quote unquote wasteful spending are going to have devastating consequences. It's going to mean higher expenses for families. It's going to mean loss of health care for working adults and kids with special needs. It's going to mean an increase in poverty. Altogether, this administration's fiscal policies are going to put more money in the pockets of the wealthy. They're going to increase the deficit, and they're going to transfer immense power to corporations. So that's what we are here to counter this week. We are going to do that with a truth sandwich. And again, you'll hear more about this later. This will be reiterated, but this is how we disrupt disinformation and lies when we see them. This was created by George Lakoff, who is a linguist. And the idea here is that if you just sort of bombard people with fact checks right away, they're going to be caught off guard. They're going to feel defensive. So we have the buns of our sandwich as sort of positive proactive messaging, and we do our disrupting in the middle. So we're going to start with a positive proactive statement, and we're always going to start by focusing on common ground. This is going to put us in a position to be a trusted messenger, to say, hey, I understand something about you. I know where you're coming from. We have something in common. Then we're going to disrupt the lies and the misleading information. And we're going to do that not just by fact checking, but we're going to actually prompt critical thinking. We want their brains to do their own work to figure out that this thing is false or misleading. So we're going to work on questioning motives and sources. And then we're always going to end with our positive proactive message, the thing that we want people to walk away with. So here's what this is going to look like this week. We are going to have a couple truth sandwiches for you. So we have one like big picture message, and then we're going to have a few subtopic messages. So this is the truth sandwich for our big picture message, which is focused on overall federal finance fibs. So at the top bun of our sandwich is acknowledging that it sounds really good to talk about a balanced budget. You know, this claim of pursuing a balanced budget, it sounds good. Like, that's a common value, that's shared ground. Then we're going to disrupt. So it sounds good until you see the math. We're actually seeing trillions in tax cuts going to the rich, increasing the deficit, and we're slashing healthcare and Social Security. And then we're going to end on our proactive message, which is questioning who benefits from this and just noting it doesn't add up. And there might be other, you know, sandwiches that come to have other proactive messages. So this is our big picture message for this campaign. We also have subtopics that we're going to give you. These are more focused messages. They're focused on more specific aspects of this lie. So we have 4 of them, and I'm going to walk you through them here. This one on the left here is focused on the Doge cuts, the Elon Musk agency Doge cuts. So a similar truth sandwich message, we can all agree that cutting wasteful spending is good, but are the culprits of wasteful spending climate and cancer research, veteran services, national parks, and financial oversight, or is this just propaganda? That's a question to prompt critical thinking. And then our proactive message notes that programs that keep us safe and healthy, when they get slashed, the real cost falls on us. So similarly, we have a focused message on healthcare. Healthcare is too expensive. There's our shared value. So why is the White House claiming we're going to get healthy again by cutting Medicaid? Who benefits from that? We can do better. And then we have 2 more focused messages. One is focused on tax cuts for the wealthy. Nobody likes paying taxes, but we want our tax money spent on things that benefit us all. So why is the White House claiming that a tax plan that gives massive sums to the top 1% is a good use of money? We're worth more than that. And then we have one focused on climate. You know, we all want our neighborhoods to be safe from toxic chemicals and natural disasters. So why are we dismantling programs that protect us while falsely claiming we need to spend money on more fossil fuel products that are just going to pollute? So the math isn't adding up. So these are more focused messages that you can use. So I'm going to turn this back to others to give you all more context about how this program works and what we are going to do with this. But the key things to keep in mind are that we've given you these truth sandwiches. There's a big picture one and some focused messages. We've given you these graphics for each of them that you can use if you are posting in a place, or if you're sharing this message in a place where a graphic would be helpful. And we'll talk more about the strategy behind all of this next. So thank you all for having me virtually.
Awesome. Well, we just heard a whole lot of information in a very short period of time. And with how many folks are on this call right now, I'm sure many of you are like, I need to do some learning here. So it is now the perfect time for us to jump into our new member orientation. So if you are an experienced Truth Brigader, somebody who has been working with us for a while, then now is the time that you can take to work on writing and posting your own truth sandwich. Now, if you want to mute your sound on your device for the next 20 minutes and make sure that you set up a timer so that way you don't miss anything that you shouldn't be missing, then you can miss or skip if you want all of the things that you've already seen and heard before. For everybody else, we're going to have you stay here. For folks that are going to turn your sound off, if you want to take your cell phone and turn on your camera app and point it right at that QR code on your screen, it'll be able to take you right to our online message sharing platform that we utilize to make sharing your own truth sandwich that much easier. So, for everybody else, make sure that you stick around and that you keep your volume turned up so that way we can do a deep dive into what disinformation is and how it works that we actively combat it. Next slide, please. So let's take a look at some definitions so we can actually understand what we're saying here. Let's start with disinformation. Disinformation is information that is false and deliberately shared for personal or political gain. Misinformation, in comparison, is information that is false, but is not deliberately shared in order to cause harm or gain power. And then something that we are seeing a lot more of and talking more frequently about is malinformation. This is information that utilizes real data, but that data is then distorted or made public in an attempt to harm or gain power. So those are three different pieces of information and definitions that you're going to run into a lot as we talk tonight and as we do this work. Now that we understand the differences, let's talk about kind of how disinformation specifically works. And what we can tell you here is that disinformation is not an equal opportunity evil, if you will. In particular, it is specifically and deliberately targeted and harmful to our marginalized communities, like people of color or the LGBTQIA plus community. There are different messaging plans to these communities rather than about them. So when we're talking about disinformation that is targeted specifically to these vulnerable groups, it is specifically trying to create a sense of impotence, meaning no power to change the system. It is also designed to undermine trust in public institutions as well as to increase silos. Now, when disinformation is about these vulnerable groups and populations, the goal is to dehumanize people and to make discrimination okay. It is also designed to divert blame for societal problems and to exploit human tribalism. Next slide, please. So this year and moving forward for the next few years, probably, we find ourselves in the new disinformation age. And so we have to address some of the foundational shifts that are allowing lies to spread without accountability. So now, false claims that are justifying cruel and illegal actions have already harmed thousands of people across the country. Next. Thank you. We also are seeing our platforms be more and more deregulated, which then allows for the more rampant spread of mis and disinformation. Next. And we also see that government websites are removing factual information, around 8,000 pages as of a month ago. Think of pages like the White House's main website. But we also see mainstream media acting in a way that normalizes the lies. Next slide, please. So, even though the lies are now mainstream and nonstop, as well as dangerous, some of these tactics have not changed from previous years. As you will hear again and again today, most people want to know the truth. The misinformation that we see, it has been originated by only a few hundred super powerful people and or groups or organizations. And then that information is repeated over and over and over again on every single page, platform, news agency, etc. And what they want is for you to think that false narratives have been proven because you're finding them everywhere in so many spaces. But that is simply not the case. Next slide, please. So the primary goals of the disinformers, who we sometimes also refer to as bad actors, are simple. They are out to gain power and profit through unethical means. And the reality is that these disinformers don't care about the issues. Period. End of sentence. They don't care about immigration. They don't care about climate change. They don't care about crime in our cities or communities. Next point, please. They also have one goal, as I already said, and that goal, their primary goal through the spread of disinformation, is to gain profit and power by othering and harming people. So, next one, please. You might be asking yourself the question, okay, well, how? And the answer is that they're building a demand for their sense of leadership in order to solve these fake problems that they have themselves invented. So don't waste time calling out their hypocrisy because, to be frank, they don't care. Next slide, please. So I want you all to stop and ask yourself, why do people believe disinformation? I'm going to give it, let's say, 15 seconds if you want to hop in the chat and type in your answer of why people believe disinformation. Okay, I'm seeing confirmation bias. I'm seeing fear, that it's easy. A lot of fear, a lot of this idea of confirmation bias because people are gullible. Well, because they're trusting the wrong source. These are a lot of great ideas as to what causes people to believe disinformation. So, will you click for me, please? Thank you. What we know, as many of you have just said in the chat, people believe disinformation because of their own inherent confirmation biases. We can dismiss information that is simply not ideologically resonant to the things in our brain, which then leads us down this whole rabbit hole of being sucked in by these sticky pieces of disinformation. There's also a lack of reflection because let's be real. We live in a 24/7 news world. Who has time to stop and think? Who has time to question if that post they saw on Facebook was true or not? And then also, people believe disinformation because of heuristics, which means that our brains perceive things we remember, be it rhymes, slogans, images, or videos, as being factual pieces of information and being true, even if they aren't. So, what we know is that disinformation is designed to engage our caveman brain. Under fear, outrage, stress, and in arguments, we don't think straight. We get into the heat of the moment, and emotions then block our ability to critically think and process what we are seeing, hearing, or taking in. This is simply human nature. While there is documented neurological differences between people who lean right versus left, we have more in common. Remembering that helps us hold conversations between people while holding mutual respect. Next slide, please. So, most people do not want to spread misinformation. Most people share the pursuit of truth as a common value. And I have to tell you, this is so wildly true. As we have learned in the last what, Jody, has it been 5 years now of Truth Brigade?
Yep.
That this is always like the core of it, that people don't want to believe this mis and disinformation, but sometimes they spread it out of fear. Next slide, which I believe goes to you, isn't it?
Yeah, that's me. So thanks, Cameron. I love the way you presented that. Really, I don't know, it really resonated with me. I hope it resonated with everybody else. So what actually works? How do we fight back? So first, let's just do make sure we all know how to identify it. It's a really important thing. How do we know it's disinformation? So it's likely an intentional false claim or video if the focus is on blaming someone or a community, not on solutions. A lot of this is sort of common sense, but it's so easy to get tied, just caught up in what's going on. Something that's a little bit more maybe in the weeds is when the headlines don't match the content. A lot of times you'll see a very inflammatory headline on an article that is quite benign. So watch out for that. For AI stuff, watch out for glitches in your videos or your images, things that don't seem to just look right, things out of focus in the background. That's a big giveaway for videos. And then look for sources. If the sources are not supplied or are from one point of view, that's a dead giveaway. It's important for all of you to know this, not only for yourselves, but for when you're talking with other people, because the Truth Brigade is all about education, and it's up to each one of us to educate other people who may not be as familiar with these topics. And then, of course, questions are deflected or met with defensiveness or personal attacks. It's often the sign of someone who wants to disinform you. Identifying misinformation, as Cameron said, misinformation is very different. It's probably misinformation, which is inadvertently shared if the person who's sharing it doesn't stand to gain profit or power. These are the people that we can persuade. So one way that you know. Another way is if the person connects the lie to an authentic personal concern, like, I'm really worried about vaccinating my kids, or I'm really worried about what's happening with my kids at school because of all this woke stuff. If you hear somebody say that, it's a genuine concern. The cause may be, misguided, but it's a genuine concern. And as I think we said already, as much as 85% of disinformation is misinformation shared inadvertently. So what works is peer-to-peer persuasion. So in this age of mistrust, it's often individuals who are the most trusted messengers for truth. Anything we're saying to you right now, if you check in with yourself, you'll say, well, I guess that actually is common sense. This is backed up by study and statistics. And then, as I mentioned, education, simple tips in recognizing disinformation, which is media and information literacy. It reduces the likelihood of sharing inadvertently. That, again, I think is as much as 15%. Evidence-based persuasion. So online, we do not engage with disinformation posts in any way. We don't click on it. We don't share it. We don't comment on it. We don't comment on other people's comments. All that does is increase attention online to the post, and then offline, factual arguments entrench opposition. We know this. This has been studied again and again. If people are argued with, if you say, oh, wait, no, you're wrong, all that does for all human beings is make us more entrenched in our positions. So facts and stats, in either online or in person, make people more fixed in their views. This next point is a really tough one. So many of us, I'll say us because I think, this again is human nature, think that, well, if only they had all the facts, they'd feel differently. But thinking that way can increase resentment, and resentment is at the bottom of a lot of our societal ills. Now, that resentment is often created by disinformation and lies, I would say most of the time. But at the same time, the worst thing that people can do is to increase that resentment by appearing to disrespect or not treat the people with different views with dignity. I found this amazing quote in an article I'll share with you after the call, which is called, that says, arrogant ideologies are built around a central conviction that we know and they don't. So, it's hard to hear. I think it was hard for me to hear, but definitely something to keep in mind, because our goal is to persuade people, not to alienate them. So what we know and what's been studied a lot is that two things, empathy plus accuracy inoculation together has recently been shown to be the most effective disinformation countering tactic, which, as you might remember, is exactly the structure of our truth sandwich framework. Open mind first through finding common values and empathy, and then prompt source checking and ask questions to promote independent critical thinking. So I'll give it back to Cameron. So now you know what works. And now then you'll hear how we're employing those things in our tactics for 2025.
Yes, thank you, Jody. So let's talk how the Truth Brigade system works. If you want to push a couple of them. So we have some incredible advisors who are out there studying the sticky pieces of disinformation and identifying the most damaging ones. Then we write evidence-based persuasive messages in the form of an indivisible truth sandwich frame for you to personalize. And don't worry, we're going to go back over it. Sorry, my dog who's whining decided to push the button and mute me. So we share these messages that we write with you via monthly webinars, like the one that you're on right now, as well as in emails every Friday in our Truth Brigade Ambassador and Truth Brigade updates. And then we also have it on Slack and Facebook. And then you share your version of all of these messages online. Next few, please. Then you engage in productive conversations using the framework offline, because we know both online and offline are very important. And so you have these conversations offline within your own networks, as well as in written form, like letters to the editor. And then we all practice non-engagement and amplification strategies. And then we rinse and we repeat, and we do this process over and over again as we continue to fight disinformation. Next slide, please. So, as you'll remember from Kelsey's presentation, our messages, long or short, utilize the Indivisible Truth Sandwich framework. And this structure is built on the evidence and research that we outlined earlier, combining relationship building and source checking. So as a quick reminder, the truth sandwich is broken up into three parts: our top bun, our innards, and our bottom bun, otherwise known as discovering common ground through our first part of the sandwich, which for this one would be stating truthful common grounds and shared values. And then, of course, our internal parts where we're actively trying to disrupt the disinformation to cause people to pause and then have a critical thought, to question the motives and the sources. And then we have our bottom bun, where we're dreaming of a better future by restating the truth and inspiring whoever it is that you're communicating with an action or an emotion or some type of hook to get them to stay in that, critical thinking space. So we know that this works because when we showed one Truth Brigade message to voters most likely to share disinformation, this is what happened, what you see at the screen. That percentage of intent to share disinformation dropped by 14%. That was from a single Truth Brigade message. And we know this from this study as well as from others, and anecdotally from our members who have been amazed and relieved by their successful online and offline conversations. And to be frank, it is a simple conversation. That's what it is, and that's why it works. Next slide, please. So I've seen people asking, okay, where do we do this? How do we do this? So the question of where do Truth Brigaders share is, well, let's be frank, everywhere that we have access to with our network. And so to help make that easier, we have a really fantastic online tool that makes it super easy for you to share and post. And so people are communicating disinformation countering messages on every social media platform that there is, as well as offline in group newsletters, in conversations. My favorite example is when they run into somebody at the grocery store who they know who's sitting there gossiping and spreading a piece of misinformation. Next slide, please. So Every month, our new campaign messages always have a message explainer in order to help you personalize your communication. And so you see an example of what that looks like on the left-hand side of your screen right now. And this comes out to you all each month, and we are putting it in our weekly emails. We're putting it on the Slack. We're putting it on the Facebook page. It's very easily accessible. You can also get to it, I believe, through our website, right, Jody?
Yes.
Yes.
No, actually, no, but you get it in every Friday email.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. And so this also provides you with an accessible and easy to use offline conversation guide to help you as you are moving from the online simple posting of a truth sandwich to having that more in-depth conversation. Next slide. So if you have a cell phone and you want to pull up your camera app once again and point it at the QR code on your screen, it will take you to our one-click stop, if you will, where you can easily post both our current, the one that we're just launching now campaign, as well as many of our former campaigns that we have done. And it is an evergreen resource that is always available to you all. And you can see an example of that on the right-hand side of the screen here. Next slide, please.
Yeah, I think we're going to me now.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, so let's take a moment, and this is interactive. And for any of you who are feeling skeptical about, can I really talk with someone who feels completely differently than me? We have a very short little way to test it out with all of you. So let's practice. We're practicing. Somebody says a bit of disinformation, and we have to figure out, okay, deep breath. How do I converse with this person? How do I open a conversation? So here's a very easy, very benign question. Somebody says, so I like purple, you like yellow. You is the person who's disinformed. And you say, yellow things need to stick together. Purple things are dangerous. So if you hear someone say that, what might we have in common? Just pop it in the chat. We care about colors. We both love color. We like Easter colors, orange looking color. That's exactly right. And as strange as it may be, it is as simple as that. Bright colors, rainbows, sprinkles. So maybe try a conversation starter. Here's a tip. Sounds like we both like colors, right? Vegetables, Minnesota Vikings. We want to be safe. Sounds like we both. And I tell you, I have done this many times in many conversations at the beauty parlor, at the grocery store, and people just breathe a sigh of relief when they get that you're not going to be fighting with them. So here's another one. And this one is it's a little bit more triggering than the last. So we're talking about, I like fast food, you like fancy restaurants, but the disinformed person says, everyone who eats fast food wants to take all our jobs. How do you open a conversation with somebody who is so fixated on that? We all like food. Exactly. We like to eat out. I know, seems very simple. And again, it's a little trick that it's super useful. Yep, eating out is fun. Yeah, I'll go on. I see you're also trying conversations. What fancy restaurants do you like? We all want to see more good jobs. I love that one. That hones in on the jobs part of it, which is trickier. But once you say we all want people to have good jobs, that's a great conversation starter. I love French fries. We all need a break. You guys rock. You are just so with it. So we'll do one more, and that is tougher still. We've talked about vaccinations a little bit. So I believe vaccinations are life-saving. You, the disinformed person, thinks they're life-threatening. So what might we have in common, and how might we start a conversation? Oh my goodness, look at all of you. Chat is flying. You guys are wonderful. If I could put up a bunch of hearts, I would. You guys, yes, that's exactly right. And I have used this. I promise you, I've used this personally. We're concerned about health, as you say. We're concerned about the veracity of information, right? All of us. I mean, more and more, we're worried about that. So yay, thanks for putting up the hearts. The hearts are for all of you. You've just done an amazing job participating in this. And I hope this is helpful in thinking about something that seems kind of impossible. So on to Kimberly. Kimberly.
So sorry, you guys. 2 minutes before I was supposed to get back on, the fire alarm went off in my house.
Oh, are you okay? Do you want me to take over, Kimberly?
No, my husband's downstairs cooking, so I want to stay up here with you all personally.
Okay.
So that was a lie, right? So our team figured out that we could use a little breather right now. I know I can. So let's pause together just for a moment or two and follow the directions on the screen. Some of you know box breathing. This is just a way to center ourselves. And I'm going to stop and breathe and ask you to join in with me. Breathe in, hold it. Breathe out. Let that breath stretch. Relax yourself and breathe in and hold it. We'll do that one more time. Breathe out. And I don't know about you, my house is not on fire, so if I can stop breathing, I think I can breathe again. So let's see. Okay, so the takeaway. What have we learned so far? It's a lot of information. If you would write down or think about one thing tonight that struck you in this presentation, or one thing that you're going to remember or that you want to remember, just take a second to think about that. You heard a lot. What one thing resonated with you? And we're going to take just a moment to kind of hit the rewind button and just kind of talk about some of the things that we have mentioned. Disrupting information, disrupting disinformation. It's not an impossible task. Not only is it possible, it is proven by research. Also, the Truth Brigade members don't engage with disinformation. This is so powerful. When you engage with it, particularly in social media, you amplify it. So don't click on it, don't engage with it, don't argue with, just scroll past. And lastly, the Truth Brigade members personalize and share pre-written messages that are released monthly. You can do that as little or as much as you want. There are no expectations, and you can do this either with your social media circle, online or offline, in conversations that you have with people. And we have a closing poll, I believe.
Oh, wait, we're not quite there yet.
Oh, sorry.
But we will be there soon.
Okay.
So also, thank you so much for all your questions in the Slack, and so sorry we can't get to them. Again, a reminder that I will be staying on after the call, and so will Jules, and we'll try to get as much answered as possible. So now we're going to a little bit, you know, the basic Truth Brigade, and you know how it all works, but 2025 is a little bit different. And I hope that right about now, anybody who has muted the orientation will come back in again. So welcome back. I said at 7, they can't hear me, but we asked them to come back at 20 after the hour. So we hope they're here. So as I was mentioning, 2025 is different. You know, you heard from Cameron at the beginning about just how pervasive disinformation is, how much it's not regulated, how much it's not controlled. So we have to respond to that. We have to do even more than we've done before. So in 2025, our goals are to build on what we've done already, to multiply our impact, and to adjust to the new information environment, and to focus on what really works. We want to kind of streamline our efforts and then amplify them big time. So the way we're doing that, you know, you might have heard this phrase, the attention economy. That's what we're in right now. It's not, intention is the thing that people need. And that is, leads to economic gain and profit, et cetera, et cetera. Our call next month is going to be all about finding truth and protecting truth in an attention economy. But for now, because attention is hard to get, we provide variations of important core messages. That's why we had 5 messages for you today. And then we amplify video content. We don't expect any of you to make videos. It's great if you do, but videos get a ton of attention. So what we ask everybody to do is to find good videos, watch them to the end, amplify them. You can comment on the good stuff and share the good stuff. And then we're doing our best to create memorable taglines to you to get more attention. Also, more than ever, trust is built locally. So we're forming teams to influence local newspapers and interest groups and to support offline conversations. And because the influencer power keeps growing, so that's a little bit different, we are forming teams to amplify existing content. We're calling them AMP teams, like amplify teams. When I say influencer, I think you all know who the influencers are. Well, even more than individuals, it's really important, as we've said, to do peer-to-peer messaging. But at the same time, we've got to capture the influencer power. So we're forming teams, and then we're going to be doing whatever we can to kind of piggyback on with people who already have a lot of influence. And then finally, nobody trusts the mega platform. So we've targeted a select spaces where we can make the most impact. Let's see, somebody asked for examples of influencers in the chat. Maybe someone else could answer that question. All right, so the platforms that we're focusing on this doesn't mean that you can't use other platforms to share your Truth Brigade work, but these are the ones that we're really studying and forming teams around. Our Blue Sky, Instagram, videos, Reddit, long form communications, and conversations. You can see there we have a variety of both sort of insular, like Blue Sky is known to be kind of more, aligned people. Instagram is bigger. Instagram connects with Facebook. So of course, Facebook is underlying all of this. We're not giving up on Facebook. And then I mentioned videos. Reddit, I'll tell you a little bit, it's a great opportunity where we can have a ton of influence. Long form, for people who aren't on social media, you can write letters to the editors or flyers or community columns. So the plan for these AMP teams is that we want each team to feel like a community, and we're structuring the teams like indivisible groups. So people will have a sense of community, everybody will have a role, and everybody will be taking action. And of course, by having teams, we'll get more messages out to more people. So a reminder of what the AMP teams are. We have a social media AMP team, a Reddit AMP team, a long form writing AMP team, and a conversation AMP team. And you'll be able to decide which team you'd like to be on. There'll be a poll at the end, and you can just click whatever you're interested in. These teams are not big obligations. They're just a way for everybody to work together. We're really excited about it. Okay, so we hope you're excited about the Truth Brigade and you're curious about where you start, even with all of this. A lot of people are asking if this presentation is available. Yeah, it's being recorded. We'll send you all of the links and the recording and the slides. You'll get the slides too. So if you're an individual, where do you start? Well, all you have to do is sign up for the Friday email, and there's a QR code. You can take a picture with your camera. If you don't know how to do QR codes, just hold your camera up on your phone, but you'll also get this in the follow-up email. Once you sign up for the email list, you've joined the Truth Brigade, and you are put on a list to get in contact with one of our amazing volunteer mentors. They're Buddy, Adrian, Cynthia, and Nilifer, and they will be glad to meet with you one-on-one to answer any questions. So super exciting. So that's your first step if you're an individual. Yeah, and don't worry about it. If you can't use your phone, you'll get the follow-up email with all the info. If you're an indivisible group, we have a program for you. I feel like Oprah. We have, if you're in an indivisible group, we'd love to send you a cheat sheet that kind of encapsulates the key points of what we talk about at a webinar that you can then post on your group's Facebook page, or you can cut and paste it into your group's newsletter, or you could use it for a presentation. It's really cool. We want to get as many groups involved as possible. So again, that's going to be on the poll that pops up at the end of this call. And that is, again, if you're in a group and you think your group would enjoy learning the things that you're learning today, well, just sign up. You'll be called an ambassador, and you'll get a monthly cheat sheet. Cool, right? All right, you guys ready for the poll with our lovely master of poll ceremonies? Mistress?
Mistress. Love it. Love it. I'm going to take that mantle on. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty amped about those AMP teams. So let us know, how will you fight disinformation with us by responding to the poll? This is super important because we're going to know who to reach out to based on your poll responses. So please make sure that you respond and let us know how you want to fight disinformation with us. Lots of people are saying social media, long form writing, offline conversations. Not too many Reddit people, huh?
I just say my screen is like bumping all over the place with so many people answering. It's just,
Yeah,
like,
it's
it's
amazing.
wonderful.
Yes.
You all have been such an amazing like Zoom participation audience. We wish you could see you, but we see you in the chat.
Yeah, someone just said Reddit is not something they understand. I have recently gone down the Reddit hole. So yeah, I get it. It was like another world, but it looks like evenly split between social media long form and offline conversations. We are at about half of the people who are still on the call have responded. So we're going to give it another minute or so. And why don't you all keep responding to the poll? Jody, would you like me to give the closing information while people are still responding and then come back to the results? To give people
Sure.
If you want to go to the next slide, we want to thank you for being here. Please continue to respond in the poll. We have about 400 people who are still responding. So we want to thank you for being here tonight. We want to remind you to register for the April 2nd call at 6:30 Mountain Time and 8:30
Eastern time.
6:30 Eastern Time. I'm sorry.
No worries.
And also, there will be an AMP team trainings and launch. Let's see, my screen is way too small. My bifocals aren't bifocaling. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Carrie, sorry about that. Register for the April 9th call, Truth Brigade call, Big Truths, Protecting Truth and in an Attention Economy. That's April 9th. And then a reminder, the Truth Brigade Persuasion Time is the Truth Brigade Persuasion Time in your weekly calendar. Set some time aside for persuasion, Truth Brigade persuasion. Schedule a communication coffee break for learning or message posting and conversation. So those are the reminders. April 2nd call, April 9th call. The links from everything today will be in the chat. And it looks like people have pretty much finished responding. They're still trickling in. So Jody, I'm just going to give the results so far and not end it. That way people can still respond. I think this is important information. So I'm going to take a little liberty here. Keep responding. People are still answering. We have about, so far, 58% of the people who said they want to fight disinformation with us on social media. We have about Oh, forget the percentages. I'm not a math person. We have a bunch of people who said they want to participate using long form letters to the editor, other articles, possible comment sections. And then we have a big chunk of people who said they want to be brave and have these conversations offline with trainings and education. So what we're going to do is add you to the information for the AMP team and reach back out to you with more information. And it looks like the responses have slowed down, but we have not. So I want to thank you for being here and thank you for your time. And if you have, I'm going to we got the poll ended. We'll stop sharing. If you have questions, which I'm sure that you do, please hang around and Jody will be here to answer questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Kimberly. And thanks everybody who helped on the call. Adrian, Cynthia, Jules, Cameron, and of course the wonderful Kimberly. Did I leave anybody out? I hope not. For the people who are asking, how do you register and how do you, and what's happening, you will get follow-up email with all the links. And just to clarify, on April 2nd, we're going to have our launch call for our AMP teams. And that's where we're going to divide into rooms. And at each room, we'll talk about each one of the teams. 1 week later, we're going to be having what we call a big truths call. And that's, I've been using these quote marks a lot. Anyway, we're going to have a big truths call, and that's where we're going to talk about the attention economy. So that's all that. And thank you for all the lovely things you're saying in the chat. And you can always, by the way, I'm going to put, well, you know what? I'm going to turn off the screen. And then with Jules' help, we're going to try to answer as many questions as we can. So I'm going to stop sharing. So you get to see our faces. And again, for anybody who needs to leave, please do feel free. That's the call has ended. The official part of the call has ended. And now we're in the unofficial Q&A session. And again, thank you all for participating so enthusiastically. Jules, do you want to tell me some of the questions that you've seen come up a lot? And I see we have a lot of people, also Cynthia, Cameron, Adrian, anybody, if you see some questions that you think we should answer, please.
One of the questions is this program only for people on social media?
Great question. The answer is absolutely not. There's a lot of people who only do conversations. They write letters to the editor. You can take that Truth Sandwich framework and it really lends itself well to a letter to the editor. And it's, the funniest thing is it's really just a good practice in any relationship, in any writing, that you start off your writing with something that catches people's attention and they can agree with, unless of course you're trying to outrage them and grab them that way. But, finding something in common with people is not really, like I said, it starts becoming pretty intuitive. So you can use it in conversation, in letters. And another thing that I'm excited about working on is finding people who want to see if they can get sort of regular columns in their community newsletters. You can also write about disinformation awareness generally without needing to be issue-based. If you live in a community where it's kind of scary to get out there and you really feel a little bit uncomfortable dealing with specific issues, we have, and we'll send this in the follow-up, we have a program called Disinfo Busters, and those are all educational posts about things like don't engage with, bad things and how to recognize disinformation and, just educational tips. And so there's just a lot of way you can share this information offline as well as online.
That actually leads perfectly into the next question is, can folks download the truth sandwiches, and so they can have it on hand on the go?
Yeah, there's a few ways to get them. If you are online, you'll see once you get the campaign explainer, which is 9 pages long, I have to say. There's a bunch of links to our social sharing platform. And that social sharing platform doesn't just have the truth sandwiches from today, it has them going back for months and even years, some of them. And so that's a really easy way to see previous ones. We also have a list of all our old campaigns. That's a little bit hard to find. You'd have to ask, like, you can email me. I'm jody@indivisible.org, and we can send you that list. All of these things are really easy to find on Slack, but not all of you, I'm sure, are familiar on Slack. We do have a Truth Brigade Slack channel that you get invited to as soon as you join the Truth Brigade. And in that channel, you see all of our old campaigns, and there's Cynthia runs a great workspace for people to workshop messages, and all kinds of great stuff is happening there. But the easiest thing is to, if you can go onto the social sharing platform, you can see them. We are updating our website, I should tell you that. And so we hope in the next couple of months to be able to point you to the website that shows, like a whole page of truth sandwiches, but we don't have that.
I think it's fantastic that we're a little bit over the time of the end of the call and people are still in the chat asking
Yeah,
questions.
500 people. Yeah, so
I think that's
550.
absolutely
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Edward has a really amazing question. Who is the target audience for Truth Brigade on social media? Who are we reaching, given the algorithms on Facebook and other social media that is driven by negative inflammatory posts?
That is such a good question. We are not trying to convince people who are on the far end of the far right, or anybody like extremists who truly believe what they're saying and are completely closed. That's not our audience. It doesn't really make sense. I mean, it could work, but that's not where we want to put our efforts, because our target audience are people within our own networks. And we want to get them so excited that they share what they've learned with their networks, who share it with their networks, who share it with their networks, so that what happens is that everybody, first of all, number one, everybody's life is touched by disinformation. We all absorb it, and there's no way around that. And so it helps all of us to get reminders to take a breath, to think critically, to think twice, to, don't share, don't talk to people or write to people when you're feeling lots of emotions, because that's just, it's not going to work because we don't think straight. So we all need it for ourselves, and so many people in our networks need to learn these tools. We do want to reach out, of course, to people who may be, not quite in our networks and persuadable. And these are the misinformed people that we've talked about a lot. And so I would say it's really people in our networks, and then people sort of on the outskirts of the networks. But we're not going to be going to Truth Social. We're not going to be going to like Fox News and do arguments and things like that. There are people who call up right-wing radio, but that's not us. So I hope that's helpful.
I've seen this question a couple times, so I'm gonna ask it. What do you do when they don't want to acknowledge any common ground? Some people have experienced that, and they don't know
Really?
how to handle it.
I think then you walk away. Again, and something we didn't say as much during the call, one of the really important things about this program is that you all feel safe, and it helps you feel positive. A lot of people find that, just get the whole notion in the past of, sharing facts and getting to arguments, it just, it's exhausting and it's depressing. And our program, which is about, finding common ground, makes people, they just feel better about it. But a big part of that too is if you're experiencing something that's not successful, politely walk away. You can say, thanks for your time, just something like, thanks for your time. I need to walk the dog, or whatever it is. Just, politely excuse yourself from the conversation and leave. And that's fine. One of the things that I love about this program also is that if all we've done is, made someone think a little bit, it's really just thinking a little bit that makes a difference. Because ultimately, we can't persuade anybody anything. We all convince ourselves in the end. So yeah, walk away is the answer.
Andrew in the chat has a question that, again, I've seen quite a bit. Once you're talking to someone and you're not with it, how do you notice your anger bubbling up and how do you prevent that? Because you still want to have that conversation, but you might get a little frustrated that they're
Really
not where
hard,
you're
right?
at.
I feel that in my stomach. I don't know where you feel it. Yeah, I think we're human, right? And I that's for me, what I do is I just try to breathe, and see if I can kind of become detached again. I guess it's kind of Zen. And if you can't, you could just say, what I'm finding is, I mean, it depends on the conversation, and how open it is. But I don't think there's anything wrong if it's a certain type of conversation of saying, you know what, I'm starting to feel kind of emotional about this. So, but I'd really love to talk with you more. And I want to make sure that we have, a good conversation. So can we pick this up again another time? I think that's probably what I might do. I have been in that situation and I have just, taken breaths, and when they haven't worked, just found a way to let it go.
It's also a perfect opportunity to do some box breathing.
Yep. It
Or
also it also works in your other relationships too, I'll say, like Kimberly said.
Okay. This is one of the questions that I thought was really interesting is doesn't disinformation isn't disinformation used to increase the power of powerful rich groups and not so much a place born out of ignorance, but a place born out of greed.
Yes, absolutely. So there's the difference between disinformation and misinformation. The people who spread disinformation are doing it for power and profit. That's what they're all about, and they're spreading lies because they can't get what they want through telling the truth, right? I mean, that's the sad thing about it. So that's absolutely true. The good, I guess, thing about that is there are really only a few hundred, powerful groups and people who are doing this, although it impacts millions of people. The type of false claims that we want to fight back against are misinformation, and it's actually with misinformed people. And the misinformed people are not sharing the lies because of greed or power. They're sharing them because they genuinely are concerned. And those are the people we can talk with.
We've had this question quite a couple times in the chat. People are excited, people are motivated, people want to know how they can get started and join the Truth Brigade.
It's an easy one. So just join the Truth Brigade. There's a link, and we'll send you the link tomorrow, and we can pop the link in the chat again. So once you join, then you'll get a link to the Slack channel, and you'll get welcomed there and kind of figure out your way around there. And you'll also get put on a list to meet with one of our amazing mentors. And you'll get onto the email list so that you'll start getting our Friday updates, which always list the current campaigns. Something I wanted to mention that I've seen in the chat and I forgot about is we just put together a guide to what do you do if there's a bunch of trolls on a public post. And I'll put a link to that in the follow-up email too, because I did some research. Somebody asked me on the Slack channel, and I did some research and came up with and got some good help and came up with some step-by-steps to help people deal with that. You can use the graphics on the site for sure. And the number one thing about the trolls is ignore them. You can't, but if you see like thousands of people on your post, when usually you only get like 20 or 100, that's probably people, doing something. I think they call it brigading, where they all come together, or they use bots to comment on your post. And when that happens, that is something you can report. You can also get all your friends together to put good comments on your post, but don't ever argue. Don't argue with the trolls. Just post something that's different and contrary. And the bright side is they're getting your original post seen, right? If there's thousands of people seeing it, then you get to see your original one. What do you think? Maybe about 2 more questions?
Let's see.
By the way, Adrian or Cynthia, if you
Yeah,
want to pop
yeah,
in and answer anything,
I'll
you're
pop in
welcome to.
here.
Yeah.
I'll jump in. Jeanette just asked a question, said saw mention of April 9th and April 2nd. Are these 2 different meetings in April? Are there 2 different
Yeah.
meetings in April? Yes.
Yeah, the one on the 2nd is the AMP team kickoff. So that's for people who really want to get involved with AMP teams. And so that's what we're doing on the 2nd. The one we're doing a week later is a standard Truth Brigade webinar. So it's an informational webinar. It's not a training. It's it's one where we feature a speaker, and we're going to be talking about protecting truth in an attention economy. We'll get a great speaker for you. We're excited. Oh, AMP is short for amplify. Is there one more question for us? Jules, do you have one?
I think it's a perfect one to end with.
Okay.
Do the messages lose impact if too many people are posting them?
I don't think so. There's two parts to that answer. One is that, of course, as we want as many people to see our messages as possible, and repetition, it works on both sides. People perceive things they hear a lot as true, and if they hear the truth a lot as true, that's even better. The other thing we didn't emphasize on this call that is, something that has been important to this project for a long time is that we do encourage all of you to personalize these messages. So even though it'd be the same, you use the same graphic, you can, write in your own words what, using the frame of the Truth Sandwich, but don't just cut and paste. You can personalize it, change up a few words or change up a lot of words. You can find common ground by the first sentence can be something that's a value that's important to you, not necessarily something that we put in the explainer. So change them up, but keep the basic message and the basic framework consistent.
Yeah, the truth is like a catchy song.
Yeah.
The more you say it or sing it, the more people will hear it. I don't see any more questions. I see the for the most part the folks in the chat have had great questions, so they've been answered either via live or in the chat.
Great. And for anybody who felt that there was just a ton of stuff and a little bit hard to follow, remember you'll get the video and you can pause it and you can play back anything that you missed. So thank you all so much. Lots of love to everybody in this really, really difficult world. Stay positive if you can, and if not, take a nap or ignore it. That's eat some ice cream. But keep on with your amazing activism. We do have the power. A lot more of us who care. So good night, everybody. Thanks again.